Thank you so much for joining me today, Shakira. Thank you so much and welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much, Christine. I'm so excited to be here with you.
I'm excited for our chat after our conversation and when I jumped on your podcast. I loved our conversation and I was like, I can't wait to have you on mine so we can dive into all the ins and outs and how you've created your next level of success within your business. So before we dive in and talk all things team and all things systems and all things growth, can you tell us a little bit about how you created Hair Candy and where it all came from?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started out as a hairdresser. Actually, no, I started out as a makeup artist. I dropped out of school when I was 15. I didn't finish high school, so I have no high school certificate. And my parents let me leave as long as I did something else. So left school, became a makeup artist, and I started doing makeup for weddings and formals and things like that. And it wasn't really consistent work. So I got a job in a hair salon doing makeup there. And then they said to me, "Hey, do you want to do a hairdressing apprenticeship in conjunction with doing the makeup?" And I got started in hairdressing and I absolutely loved it. And I came across hair extensions, which at the time was like a new up and coming thing. It wasn't really a popular thing back then. And one of the girls in the salon did extensions and she did them on me. And I couldn't believe how many people were asking me, "How do you get your hair so long? It's amazing. It's blonde. It looks healthy. Like, what is the secret?" And people would just ask me everywhere I went. And I was like, there might be something to this hair extensions thing. So I went and got training in hair extensions. And then I started my own business from home. So just started in my spare bedroom, just doing people that I met through my makeup business. And I decided to, I guess, just keep delving into the world of hair extensions. And it was interesting because at the time when I started, there wasn't any competition. Nobody was doing hair extensions. There was like a couple of people here and there. So I really, I think, entered at the right time where it was such a new and upcoming thing. By that point, people were already getting their nails done, and that was sort of starting to become really popular. And I could see that hair extensions was starting to become one of those things that a lot of women were wanting to have. So I just took the opportunity. I was absolutely terrible at first when I first started. I look back at my old photos and the quality of my work was like crazy, not good. But I just really worked on honing my skill and really trying to be the best that I could possibly be. I kept doing more courses, kept practicing and innovating new ways to do hair extensions. And I was able to come up with my own technique of doing hair extensions as well, which helped my business later on when I started doing training of hair extensions, just to have my own way of doing them. So I started from home and then I built up my clientele and I moved into a salon. And then I just kept continually growing the business from there. After about 5 years, selling them on my e-commerce site for about 10 years now. And I've also been growing my salons. And now I've got a team of about 25. I've got 3 salon locations. I've got a warehouse for my e-commerce business. And that's where I'm at today.
Yeah, wow, huge growth. And I think as well, like, I just love how you've had come from this service based and then you've blended it into a product based business. But by the sounds of it, like, it hasn't been easy. There's no, it hasn't been easy. There's been so many challenges along the way, I'm sure. And I think as well, like, I love that you actually shared that you didn't actually finish high school, and yet look what you've actually been able to create within your business. It's pretty phenomenal. And I'm sure that that hasn't been an easy thing mindset wise as well to sort of, keep scaling and keep growing your business.
Yeah, definitely. I've only recently started sharing that I didn't finish high school because I was really ashamed to share it. I thought people would think I was dumb, or I thought, oh, they think, you're just that stereotypical blonde hairdresser who doesn't know anything and didn't even finish high school. And I was really ashamed to share it. But now that I actually do share it, I get so many people coming to me and saying, "I didn't finish high school either." And I have hope knowing that I can do things because I've seen what you've been able to accomplish, and you don't need to have a university degree or be super, intelligent to be able to run a business, which I think it's nice to kind of share that.
Yeah, 100%. And by the sounds of it, you did have a very entrepreneurial spirit, though. Like, you were thinking about things in a different way. You were like, oh, maybe this could be a thing. And you were open to the possibilities of creating a business. Did you have got parents that are in a business, or was that something that was already in your blood?
So my parents didn't have a business. Like I didn't grow up, we didn't have a lot of money growing up. My parents worked really, really hard. That was one thing they instilled in me was to work really hard and not to sleep in and not to spend your weekends enjoying yourself, you know. I think I got my first job when I was 13. I worked every Saturday, and then I worked at McDonald's and I was always taught to work very hard. But then when I was a teenager, probably in my mid-teens, about 15 or 16, my parents did start a business. So it's funny, they started a business a couple years before me. And then their business started to grow. And then we kind of like could talk about it together. And their business was ahead of mine, and they would kind of give me tips and pointers and things like that. So yeah, it's kind of funny. We sort of almost went on that journey together,
Yeah,
which
how
was really
random.
cool.
Yeah. And so now when you look back at your trajectory of your business, like where you began and now where you are now, how do you look back on it? Do you look through different milestones? Do you go, oh, this was like before I put something in place? Is this actually once I hired team? Like, how do you look back on it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's so many milestones. I would definitely say one of them was opening my first location because that felt like a really big milestone to take it out of my house into a physical location. So my first salon was in Surfers Paradise, and then I actually had it for about 2 years, and I closed it down because I hated being there every day. I felt
Yeah.
like I was so chained to the business. It was like 6 days a week I was in there, and I just was like, no, this is not for me. And I was only, I think 20, I think I was 22 to 24. So I was pretty young. I was like, I just don't want this kind of responsibility right now. So I actually closed it, went back to working from home. And then I thought, you know what, I'm going to open a business again. I want to have another physical location, but I'm going to do it on my terms this time. I'm not going to set the business up where it's attached to me being there every single day. I had a very clear vision in mind that I wanted to create a business that could run without me, where I wasn't having to be there every single day. So I did it differently the second time around. And that was sort of part of that, I guess, was like telling my team straight up, like, hey, this is my plan. This is what I'm going to be doing. Don't expect me to be here and be making every decision. I trust you, giving them good, guidance and giving them my expectations, but then letting them make decisions, small decisions, and things like that, day-to-day things. So I did it a little bit differently the second time around. So I would say that was in itself a bit of a milestone, just recognizing what I wanted, and then really setting that from the start. And then secondly, I would say another milestone would be starting my own hair extensions brand. So I was already using hair extensions from other suppliers in Australia, but I couldn't find good quality hair. There was just not that many people supplying hair, and it was awful quality, would only last a couple of months at a time. So I thought, I'm going to have to go to China. I'm going to have to find a supplier. I'm going to have to find my own brand. It's the only way to get the quality that I want. So I did all that. And then I started selling them. Just people were asking me, like, hey, can I buy? I just got them for myself, for my salon, for my clients. But then other hairdressers would come and get their hair done and say, this quality is incredible. Can I buy these from you? And I was like, oh, I guess so. Like, I can just sell you what I've got off the wall out the back. And that's sort of how the wholesaling or the e-commerce sort of side of the business started, because people were wanting the product because the product was really good. So that was another milestone, I would say. And then I think another milestone would be in 2017, I think it was. Um, I was actually in a position where I was in a lot of debt. I hadn't been paying any attention to my finances. Didn't really have systems in place, and I was $200,000 in debt. So I was really quite stressed out about that. And I decided to get a coach. So I actually hired a coach to help me work through all of that. I hired a really good financial advisor as well to help me figure out how I was going to get through this period. And from that point on, it only took me 2 years to pay off the debt, which was amazing to me at the time. And my business absolutely skyrocketed from there. So from that point, the business had been growing pretty steadily, but we were maybe only doing, I think, 300,000 to 400,000 a year in sales. And from then on, we're now up to 5 million a year in sales. So it is just like doubled pretty much every single year, because I decided to get some professional help, start taking the business seriously, treating it like an actual business instead of just me doing hair, me just viewing myself as a hairdresser. I started viewing myself as a business person and really taking it seriously, I guess. And that was a big change that happened in my business.
I love that. Oh my goodness. So many things I want to dive into. I love that shift in mindset because that actually makes such a big difference for so many business owners when they actually start to look at their business as a separate entity and go, hang on a minute, it needs a certain thing in order to survive. And I need to actually look at the numbers, right? Like getting all your finances in order, even though sometimes that can be super uncomfortable, especially when you're in debt. There's a lot of shame that gets attached to debt, but well done. Like 2 years and smashing that debt out is amazing. So good. I'd love to know, like, and if you're open to sharing it, was the debt from the physical space, or was it from running a product-based business?
It was tax and credit card debt. The
Wow.
worst kind of debt you could possibly have,
Yeah.
even worth anything good. And it was basically because I'd buried my head in the sand with my finances. I didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to deal with it. My accountant also wasn't really pushing me. The one that I had at the time wasn't really pushing me to take care of it. And then I wanted to increase my stock levels. So I, instead of getting a loan or instead of being given proper direction on how to do it, I just got credit cards to buy more
Wow.
stock, and to even to keep the business afloat at times. And it was interesting because my business was doing, like I said, 300 to 400,000 a year. It wasn't a small, business, and it wasn't like I had a team and things like that. So I feel like I got really far without paying attention to anything like that. And then I realized, like, actually now I'm in all this debt. I have to pay attention to my finances. I have to figure this out. I have to educate myself, and I can't just keep ignoring this situation in my business.
So good. And now how do you view your numbers in your business?
Oh, completely differently.
Yeah.
I am like a data oriented, data driven. Like, I literally, just before I got on this call, I had a call with my operations manager, and she was asking about whether we should be hiring a new person. And I was like, let's go to the data. That's always my first thing for everything. Let's go to the data. And we look at that. And then that drives pretty much all of the decisions that we make in the business. We have between 13 to 15 KPIs that we review every single week as a leadership team. And then I'm reviewing my finances monthly. I'm so on top of exactly what the business is making at all points in time. And I might not have been this way had I not gone through that really eye opening experience of being in so much debt and having no idea how I was going to get out of it.
Yeah, my goodness. Sometimes we have to have those big smack in the face moments where you're like, oh my God, it's either I've got to deal with this and get uncomfortable and actually deal with it, or my business could go under. Like that's
Yeah.
massive to be able to
No,
go.
I was actually thinking about going bankrupt. I was like, maybe I should just go bankrupt because it just felt like such a huge amount of money. I was like, that would probably be easier than paying it off. It just seemed like this impossible thing that I was never going to get through. And any other option than paying it off seemed like a better option to me. But no, I stuck it out, and I've been well rewarded for it.
I just honestly love this because this is the way that I look at obstacles like that in a business is literally what you need to grow through in order to get to your next level. So for you
Yes.
to be able to scale to obviously 5 million a year, like you needed to get across your finances. You needed to know your numbers effectively in order to grow to that level. Otherwise, it never would have actually gotten there, like in my opinion, right? Like, and obviously I don't know the ins and outs of your business, but would you agree? Like you needed
Oh,
to actually get to that stage
100%.
of actually seeing it as well, actually seeing it as a strength. Like you needed to have that confidence within yourself to look at your numbers so then you can actually grow it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the other lesson I learned as well is that when you're going through a really hard period like that, you can't see what's on the other side. Like,
Mm.
I didn't know when my business was making 3 to 400,000 that it would be 5 million one day. I had no idea that it didn't, the thought did not even enter my mind. So I think that's something to keep in mind is when you're going through challenges, you can't see what's on the other side, but you have to just trust that it's going to be better than where you currently are, and that it's going to be better than you can even imagine it's going to be. Like, whatever you can imagine now, it can be even better than what you can possibly imagine. And that's what's really exciting. That's what helps get me through things now, is I think, okay, I'm going through this, but whatever's on the other side of this is going to be amazing. Just trust that it will be amazing.
Yeah, love it. Love that. So I'd love to know, like, after all of that had happened and you feel like you've gotten across all of your finances and you're feeling a little bit more confident, what was the key things that you put in place that actually helped you scale beyond the million mark then? Because obviously you're doing 3 to 400K a year. What then pushed it beyond the million?
I would say one of the biggest things would be delegating to the team. So, really looking at what I was doing in the business and delegating out tasks to the team. And one of those things was me not doing the actual services. So me not being on the tools and doing hair. I was getting over it anyway because I'd been doing it for quite a while, but I just felt like if in order for the business to grow, I have to step back. I have to take a bit of an income cut, I guess, because I'm not doing clients and making money in that sense. But I'm going to spend that, 1 day a week that I'm taking off to 100% work on my business. So that was one of the things I did. And then I slowly worked my way back a day, a day per week, until I was completely able to stop doing hair. And that was when my business really started to grow because I had the time and the energy to actually put the systems in place to actually do all the things I want to do. But it did mean taking a little bit of an income cut at the beginning, which I think for a lot of business owners can be hard because they want to just keep making as much money as possible. And they think if I take this amount of time off, it's going to be X amount of dollars that I lose and all that kind of thing. But looking at the bigger picture and the long-term picture, if you don't work on your business and you don't take that time, you're just going to be stuck doing exactly what you're doing right now and it's never going to change. So you have to really be disciplined and always looking at the bigger picture of things and reminding yourself why you're doing what you're doing. So having time to do it was one thing. And then secondly was putting systems in place as well. So I went from opening one location to having two. And oh my goodness, everything changed so much. Going from one to two locations was a huge a wake up call for me that I did not have enough systems in place to support a second business because they were doing things differently in both locations. There just wasn't that consistency across the brand. So that was a huge learning curve for me. And then going from two to three was like nothing, it was so easy. And then you can just keep going to more and more and more. You just copy and paste. But going from one to two is a big challenge. And I think that's where having those systems in place and having everybody on the same page of the vision of what we wanted for the customer experience and everything like that was really important. So just making sure that I had those systems, solid systems in place was really important as well.
Yeah. And I guess like some of those things, like you just mentioned, can be quite uncomfortable for a business owner to go through. Like, I think when they see the evidence of like, well, this is how actually I make money. If I don't work on doing this specific action within the business, this money won't come through. But they can't see that actually working on the business is actually how you should be generating money. Like, it's so funny because when you actually do flip it to that side, then you're like, what was I doing before?
Yeah.
Like,
Like what I'm
ridiculous.
doing now is so much better.
Yeah, 100%. And I think as well, like, actually, no, I would love to know from you is then once you shifted your attention, how challenging did you find that to be like, okay, well, now that I'm not working on the floor and I'm working on the business, what do I actually do with my time? So did you have a bit of an idea of like, okay, I know I need to grow it in this area. I know I need to work on the product-based business. Like, where did your attention shift to?
I think it changed depending on the circumstances of the business. So it kind of goes in ebbs and flows where sometimes it might be marketing. Marketing is a big part of what I do. If we, need more clients, then my attention goes towards the marketing and really focusing on that. If we're, got sales coming in, but we're maybe not profiting as much as what we would like to be, then I get more focused on the finances and auditing everything, going deep into the finances. Sometimes it's building the team. Like if we had new team members come on when I was training them, it was working on training new team members, getting them up to speed. I never felt like I didn't have anything to do. I always felt like there was something that I needed to be working on, but really looking at the business as a whole, something I notice a lot of business owners do is they hyper focus on one area of the business. And they often tend to focus on marketing and sales. And they think, oh, we need more clients. We need more, more, more. That's where all my attention is going to go. I'm going to be posting on social media. I'm going to be doing all that. And then they just completely ignore other facets of the business that could actually make them more money, such as auditing the business or paying attention to the finances or setting up good systems or setting on anything you can on automated, autopilot so that you're not having to do tasks over and over again. That's actually a really good place to focus your attention as well. So I think looking at the business holistically and really looking at where your attention needs to go at that point in time, and know that it will change over time as well. And I think the other part of that is just having trust in your team, not stressing that they're not going to be able to do things. 9 times out of 10, if they're not doing something the way that you want it done, it's because you haven't done your part as a leader to show them exactly how you want it done and show them what it looks like to have actually done a good job. It's generally not them not wanting to do the task or not wanting to please you or not wanting to do a good job. They generally, most people will want to do a good job. So it's good to look at, what can I do as a leader to give them better instructions, more clear expectations of what I'm wanting from them, and then just trusting that they will do a good job, and just letting go of that control, and just letting them, you know, letting
Yeah.
them have a go, And I always think too, I always joke and say, like, is anybody going to die? Like, if this happens, will anybody die? No, like the answer is never yes, So as long as no one's going to die, then it's okay. Like, we can give this a go and see what happens. If there's some mistakes made or there's some things happen, like, it's not going to destroy the entire business. It's just, you do what you can to fix it, you learn from it, and then you move on next time, instead of looking at every situation as if I don't do this task or I don't do this specific thing, everything's going to fall apart, I'm going to lose everything. It doesn't work like that. So you just have to have trust.
100%. And it's one of those things that I think people find the hardest is, one, relinquishing the control first, and
Yes.
then fully trusting in another human being to do it the way that you want them to do it. And I think that you absolutely hit the nail on the head there. It is actually the leader that comes into play, their ability to communicate effectively, the way to get your team on board, to get their buy-in. Like, there's so many factors that go into not just training, but actually supporting the team as a whole. So I'd love to know, like, what are some of the things that you do now for your team that you feel supports that cohesiveness and to supports them to do a good job?
Yeah, definitely. I would say on my salon side of the business, we now do quarterly trainings, which is something that we didn't used to do. So we have quarterly trainings with the whole team to make sure everybody's doing everything the same way, to make sure we have that cohesiveness. It's also an opportunity just to remind them of the vision of the business and where we're headed, so that everybody knows exactly what we want to be known for, exactly what we're doing in the business. And then we also have fortnightly meetings with the team, like within their internal team. And then there's a weekly meeting with the leadership team of managers of the salons, and the two ICs as well. So we do have a lot of regular meetings to make sure everyone knows exactly where we're at in terms of finances, in terms of systems, making sure everybody's on the same page, we're all rowing in the same direction. I think that really, really helps. And then I've got on my wholesale team, my wholesale e-commerce team, that's pretty similar as well, how we operate over there. Lots of regular meetings, lots of check-ins, keeping everybody updated. I think that's a big part. Another thing that we do as well as leaders. So I have two managers that report directly to me, one on the salon side and one on the e-commerce side. And every quarter we have a whole day together where we plan for the next quarter. So we review all the figures, we look at what's working, what's not working in the business, what issues do we need to address, what goals do we want to set for the next quarter to make sure that we can keep the business progressing forward. So my role in the business now is really to just direct the vision and lead the business as a whole, as opposed to doing any sort of tasks towards actually running the business. The business does essentially run without me for the most part. The only one thing that I'm really holding on to, which I'm not letting go of, well, I need to, but I can't, is the, I guess, accounts and the finance side of things. I still like to have control of the bank accounts and all that kind of thing. So that's the only thing that probably I would love to give up and have somebody do, but that's not there yet. We do have an accounting team who do all the payroll and the tax and everything like that, but I just like to physically transfer the money for the payroll and all that kind of thing. So that's the one last thing that I'm kind of like holding on to, that I'm just not ready to let go. But at the end of the day, it takes me maybe an hour every fortnight, so it's not a huge
And it
chunk of
keeps you
time.
abreast of it all, right? Like, at least you know what's
Yeah,
happening within the finance side of the business.
exactly. I'm very aware of all that. So, yeah, that's the one thing I'm holding on to, but then everything else is pretty much managed by the team. And my role is just to be that visionary, keep everybody focused, keep building relationships with, other companies that we partner with and things like that. My role is a bit different now to what it was before.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I think a lot of business owners don't really know what that looks like once they step out from working on the floor or doing the actual actions within the business. So having that bit of a vision of like how that works in your role, that was really, really awesome. So thank you so much for sharing that. So you mentioned like the control piece, not the finance piece is like the last thing that you're holding on to, but what's something that you actually have delegated and you wish you had have delegated earlier?
Oh. Marketing, probably like posting on social media. That used to drive me crazy. I hated having to do that. And now I started business coaching in May last year, and I'm fully running the social media for that. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is really hard having to post every day and all the stuff involved in doing that. So I think in my salon business, I would have given up the social media a lot quicker because I just didn't enjoy doing it and coming up with new ideas. I think I would say anything that you don't enjoy doing, that should be the first thing to go. You know, when you look at what all your tasks are, don't force yourself to do things just because you think you have to. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I want to get a social media manager, or I want to get, I don't want to do the payroll anymore. I'm going to get someone a bookkeeper to do this for me. Like if there's things you don't like and it's not your zone of genius, there is no shame in letting somebody else taking over that role. And I would definitely go to the things you like the least as the first place to start, and then work your way up and then let go of the things that you wanted. And I think some of the things that I do enjoy doing that I don't do anymore, I've realized now that running the business as a whole, or even just having the opportunity now, like for me to start a coaching business, that is time consuming. I've been able to give up some of the tasks that I enjoyed doing in my salons, but now I get to do business coaching, which I absolutely love doing. And it feels very satisfying and fulfilling to me. So I think don't be afraid of giving up certain tasks that you might have to do, because you never know what other opportunities might present themselves. And if your goal is to create a business that runs without you, you basically have to be the least important person in the business. You've got to really work yourself out so that no one's relying on you, nobody needs you, and that's a continual process that you've got to work through. So you're giving some things up, but you're going to gain back in other ways, and you're going to gain freedom, which is the biggest win of all, and autonomy over how you spend your days and all of that, which is a win for me.
100%. And I think like obviously said like it's a bit of an evolution, but you just mentioned like obviously now you fully are stepping out and doing a whole new venture. Like for that to happen, what were some of the things like and how long was that kind of period of time where you were like got the idea of like, hey, now I want to start doing business coaching. How did you or what did you need to do within the two businesses in order to make that possible?
I think it took, I would say, probably about 5 years from when I first sort of decided, okay, I'm going to work my way out of the business as much as possible, because I'd take a few steps forward and then I'd take a few steps back. And then I even had a change of my leadership team, which was really, really hard to go through. But that was a big thing too, that then I had to build up new leaders within the team, to and having strong leaders is so important in the team. So I think that's a big reason why I was able to step back, was because I have now people that I can really trust, that really, they treat the business like it's their own, like they have that passion. You know, they know it's not their own, but they do treat it like that, and they have that respect for me as a person and for the business as well. So I think having those relationships with the leaders has really helped me. That is kind of where I put a lot of my effort into, is making sure I've got really good relationships with them, because I can't have relationships with the 25 people that work for me. It's too hard to try to give of yourself to every single person in the company. But if you can have, really strong relationships with the leaders that report to you, and then I spend a little bit of time with the managers who report to them, so that I've kind of got those high level leaders I've got really good relationships with. I think that really helps the business a lot. As I touched on earlier, having systems in place for everything. So anytime someone would ask me a question, it goes in the SOP bank. So you start building this bank of questions that your team would potentially come to you and ask, so that then eventually you've got every question they could ever think of in a resource that they can find, so they don't need to come to you to ask questions. And even just setting boundaries as well as to how often they can contact me. We have Slack, which is like a communication app, which we use for communication. But for the two managers that report to me, they know they can't just message me all day in Slack, because I've got other things that I need to be doing and I need to be focused. So they save their questions for an email at the end of the day that I can answer any questions. They don't even have questions every day. It's maybe once or twice a week. They have something they just need my approval on. And then we've worked out these boundaries where I don't feel like I'm constantly being pulled into the business all the time. I've set boundaries, which honestly, it was quite hard to do at first. It's quite hard to say to someone that's reporting to you, like, hey, you can't contact me when you feel like it. You can't just message me all day, like, and it feels weird too, because I remember when we first set this up, I was like, oh, now no one's messaging me and it's my phone's really quiet. And I don't know if I like this, like what's going on? Like, is everything okay? So it's a bit of like an uncomfortable feeling as well to get started.
I want to
Um,
feel needed.
I
What
want to
is
feel needed. I'm like, you guys are all having so much fun without me. Which also too is another piece as well that's been hard. And I still sometimes struggle with is that, all of my team, they all have relationships and sometimes they'll go do, dinners and things together. And I'm like, oh, like I feel almost left out in certain aspects because you just don't have that same relationship like as you used to when you were in there every day with them doing the same job and working with them. It's different, so it's all just like an evolution and growth, and you've just got to kind of work through those feelings, but know at the same time it is normal to feel a bit weird or to feel sort of disconnected a little bit in some ways, because when you're so used to being in the thick of every day and then you've got peace and quiet and clarity and you're able to work on all the things you want to work on, it is a strange feeling. So
Mm, so many different evolutions, right? As a leader that you go through. So fascinating. And I know that like building, like obviously now, like you're stepping into your coaching business, you're building a personal brand, but you've also built a brand with hair candy. Can we go back there for a second and just touch on brand? What were
yeah.
some of the things that you've learned? And it might even be new things that have come through since starting your coaching business. But like when it comes to brand, what are some of the lessons that you've learned around building brand?
Definitely, I think having a good reputation is one of the biggest things, and having a good product. That is something that has been really paramount to me throughout my whole journey. And I think so many other hair extension companies have come and gone in the time that I've been, I've had my business. And I'm so convinced the reason mine has stayed and, stood the test of time is because I have a good product, and having that good quality product has always been most important to me. So having the best quality, having really good quality control procedures in place to make sure the quality doesn't drop. And I think it's really worked well over the years, is just really focusing on that quality. Um, it's hard because when you are doing a service yourself and then you have team members come on, you can give them, training and you can do everything you can, but they're never going to be quite like you are as the business owner. Like you're always going to care that little bit more as a business owner. So you can't always rely on every single person in the team to carry the brand exactly as you would want it carried out. You can give them, 90% kind of thing, but it's not always going to be 100%. But if you have a really good quality product, people will always come back to that product. So even, people who have, if they go to a different salon to get their hair done because they like how they foil their hair, they'll still buy our hair extensions from the wholesale, the e-commerce business, because they know the quality is there and the product is there. So I think just really keeping that awareness around the product. If your quality starts to slip or you start to get complaints or there's issues, that's when I think you can really derail the business. So making sure that the quality is always there. And I think continually innovating is another thing as well. I started out with one method of hair extensions, and then I designed my own, and then we've had more come along over the years. The actual kind of extensions has changed. They used to be like thicker along the top, and now they're thinner and more flat, and like advanced technology. And we've always been very open to change. So anything new that comes up, I'm like, okay, let's test it. Let's try it. Let's see how it goes. We don't just rule out things because it's easier to not move with the times.
Or get
So we've
defensive because
continually,
you're like, they're not as good as mine.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Get defensive or think like, oh, well, what we're doing is working. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, sometimes you have to keep moving with the times. You can't just stay stuck where you are.
Yeah.
So I think just continually innovating the product as well to make sure you are with, whatever the latest and greatest is, or if you can be at the forefront of that, even better. I think that has also really helped.
Yeah. And so I'd love to know, like, what are some of the biggest mindset blocks that you've had to overcome over the years?
Oh, so many. I'm still continuing to overcome them. Um, Probably one of the biggest ones that I still struggle with a little bit, but it's if I make one wrong decision, I'm going to lose everything. I felt like that was really loud for me in the first few years was if I just stuff up in one area, that's it. I'm going to lose everything. And sometimes I still think that to a degree. There's certain decisions that I've made over the past year or so that I've thought, maybe if I didn't make that decision, I wouldn't be as stressed out as I currently am and things like that. So I think it's still there for me, but I'm continually working on it. I don't necessarily now feel like I will lose everything. I just feel like I might make a decision and it might bring more stress into my life or it might bring more challenges into my life. But that's okay. I know I can get through them. I've got through so many things previously. I got through COVID, which was so crazy. I got through changing my leadership team, which was crazy. I got through so many crazy things. I'm like, well, I can make it through anything. And I have that confidence in myself now. So I think that's a big one. And then I guess, like we sort of spoke about earlier, not viewing myself as just a hairdresser or just a person. I really had to step into a new identity that was actually, no, I'm a business person. If there are financial issues in the business, I don't have to be an accountant, but I can learn, I can educate myself how to make good decisions or, you know, situations that might come up. Sometimes someone will ask me a question and I'll have an answer and I'll think, wow, I didn't even know I knew that, or that I sort of surprise myself. So I think as a business owner, I sort of wish I had stepped into that a little bit sooner instead of just thinking, oh, I'm just a hairdresser, I'm just running a hair salon, and I'm surrounded by women and we're just having fun. And like I sort of downplayed, I guess, my value and what I was actually doing for a very long time. And I wish that I had sort of stepped into that empowering leadership or just viewing myself as
Owning
being
your achievements
owning my
even.
achievements. Yeah. And just, I wish I had done that a little bit sooner because that was really hard for me to do. Or I would, even with my business coaching, I've been wanting to do coaching for like 5 years. I have been doing it behind the scenes for free for people for 5 years now. And I only turned it into a business a year ago. But I kept thinking, well, my business isn't perfect. Like there's things in my business that it could be better. Like, I don't know if I should do this. I don't know if I'm the right person to be helping other people. And then I just started realizing, like, actually, no one's businesses are perfect. Like what you see on the outside, you have no idea what goes on behind closed doors. You have no idea how stressed someone might be or
Yeah.
what challenges they could be facing. And you just think it's all, peaches and sunshine and roses and all that, and it's just, you don't always realize that everybody actually has things that they struggle with and they have to work through. So I think, yeah, I really stalled on starting this coaching business because I struggled thinking that I had all the answers for everything. And then since I've started, I'm helping people and I absolutely love it. And I have an answer for every single question they ask me. There's not been once where I'm stumped and I'm like, I don't know what you should do. I'm like, no, I have the answer because I have that experience. So yeah, again, I just wish I hadn't have let that sort of limiting belief hold me back from doing the things that I really wanted to do and which is help other people.
And I think a lot of women have that. Like, I think it's natural for women because we've been conditioned in a certain way to not boast about who we are and our achievements. Whereas for
Yes.
men, it's like, tell us about your successes, right? They're always right top of mind. Even maybe it's even Australians as well, because I notice like so many,
Australians.
yeah,
Absolutely. I was just going to say that.
100%. Americans are like not like backwards and coming forwards and telling you how good they are, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Australians really struggle with it. Whereas I think that even just acknowledging like where you noticed even when people ask you what you do, how at what point did you actually say, well, I have $1 million business, it's an e-commerce and I run salons. Like at what point did that shift from I'm a hairdresser to actually creating this next level success of a business?
Yeah. Um, I honestly, that was a really weird shift for me. Even being able to say the revenue that my business makes would be like, oh, I feel sick in my stomach even thinking about saying how much my business makes. So, but now I can say it and I'm fine and I can talk about it because I'm like, well, it's just a fact. It's not, this doesn't need to be this emotion attached to it or this feeling attached to it. It's just, this is how much money the business makes and that's a fact. So I think, working through some of those things and, just not being afraid. I actually got asked this question. I hosted a masterclass the other day and someone asked me, like, how do you talk about your accomplishments when you feel uncomfortable, because that is something that lot of people struggle with, and they don't want to talk about, what they might have accomplished. And I basically said, you just have to do it. If it feels good to you and you're proud of something that you've accomplished, just share it. People want to see other people succeed. Most people want to see you succeed. And if they don't want to see you succeed, they can just unfollow you. Like, who cares anyway? Like, just share. If it
The
feels good
thing
to
to let
you,
them
share.
know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you're right. And people do want to celebrate you. And I think that the more that I've lent into that in the last year, like I found that very uncomfortable as well. The more I've lent into it in this year, I've had such positive feedback from actual clients saying, I'm so excited to work with you because I love to see your business grow as you're helping me grow mine. And I'm like, oh, never ever thought that would be a thing. But they're like, I just love seeing you succeed and it shows me what's possible. And I'm
Yes.
like, oh, I just love that that's the result that it's creating for you because it has been super uncomfortable for me as well. So I get that.
Yeah.
So I'd love to know, like, obviously now what you're moving forward with, what do you see as some of the challenges that you're going to come up against over the next couple of years with obviously stepping aside with the two businesses but working on your business coaching?
Um, I mean, definitely recently, time has been again an issue for me. It's funny because I worked myself out of the business, and I was like, you know what? I'm feeling like a bit bored. So let me see what I can do. So I opened a third location. That took up a whole bunch of time
You were bored.
because I was bored. And then I started the business coaching again because I had time again. And then now I've again come back to a bit of a point where I'm like a little bit stressed for time because I'm spending a lot doing coaching, and I'm, you know, being the visionary for sort of my other companies. So I think again, just always managing my time is going to be an issue where I have to be careful, I guess. I'm probably never going to be one of those people that just wants to go sit on a beach and relax and all that kind of thing. I really do enjoy working, and I like to keep myself busy, and I'd almost rather be in that phase or on the side of just a little bit too busy than being too quiet, because I like to stay busy. So I think that's definitely something I have to continue to work on. Also, just continuing to refine my skills as a leader to make sure that, especially the managers who are reporting to me, that they're happy in the business, that they feel supported, that I'm continually growing them as well. And I'm sure one day, hopefully not anytime soon, they might want to, do their own thing or whatever. So then I'd have to sort of develop a new leader to take their place. So that's something that we're continually working on. And that also is something that I speak to them about, that there should always be someone you're developing as a leader beneath you. So never to think like I'm the end of the line. There should always be someone that you're then developing. So if anything was to happen to you, or anything, you decided to go in a different direction, there's someone ready to step into your place and take over. So there's some things that I'm kind of have worked on that are in place, but it's just a continual work in progress, really. So um yeah.
Yeah. I love how future focused you are. It's honestly so good to see because I think sometimes people can get so caught up in just focusing on this next quarter when really like you're thinking way further in advance. And I think that that's what sets people apart from scaling their businesses, that they're actually much more focused further in the future of what that's going to look like and where they're going to be spending their time, but what they need in place in order to achieve those next level goals. So that's awesome to see. So good. So tell us a little bit now about who you coach. So when it comes to the business coaching, do you love working with e-commerce? Are you a blend of different businesses? Who do you love coaching?
At the moment, I'm a blend of different businesses. I definitely have a lot of salons coming to me because I've built a salon business. But I actually love coaching people who have online businesses. That is probably more my passion. I've generally helped people who are sort of making, 2 to 300,000 a year in their business, and they want to take it to the $1 million mark. So I help them with implementing a team and putting systems in place. Systems is a big thing I'm very passionate about, just because I feel like it is the missing piece in a lot of businesses. And as I mentioned, for me, that was what really set my business on the right path, was having those systems so that everybody could follow them, so that everything was consistent and stable. So that is one of the things I mostly help people with. And I have done a little bit of work with e-commerce brands. I would love to do more because I do have a product-based business. As I mentioned, I went to China. I worked with a manufacturer over there to create the product exactly to my specifications. I think it was a year and a half ago, launched a hair care line. So that was a whole thing in itself that was very crazy. I learned so many lessons in doing the hair care line with packaging and regulations and all these different things that you have to go through. So that was great, but I feel like I've learned a lot, and I'd also love to help more e-commerce business owners as well develop their product-based businesses, and also helping service-based businesses bring in a product as well.
Mm.
That's what I did in my business. I brought in a product, and it's in some ways it's quite easy because you've already got an audience of people that are wanting what you have, and you've got people ready to buy your product, especially if you choose the right product. So it's a lot easier to do that than starting a completely brand new e-commerce business if you have no audience, if you have nothing really to go off. So I love helping businesses bring in products as well to increase an extra revenue stream, and bring in a different way to make money, I guess.
Yeah, amazing. It's been so awesome to hear all about your journey, Shakira. Thank you so much for sharing everything about hair candy and all the ins and outs and all the challenges along the way. It's been so awesome to hear. So, last little question. If you were working with a client that wanted to take their business to the next level, what are two things you would ask them to focus on?
I would definitely say to focus on your systems. So, looking at your business as a whole, looking at where you could improve your systems. And if you want some extra tips on this, I've got a free download that you can download. It's my scale up blueprint. Looks at the 6 areas of your business that need systems and need auditing. And you can do a little self audit of your business and see where you need to improve. That would be the first place I would start. And then, secondly, I would say looking at what is going to move the needle in your business the most. So looking at the 80-20 rule of, they say 80% of your income comes from 20% of your efforts. What is that 20% of your efforts that you're currently doing that is bringing you the most income? What can you do more of to create more income with ease? And that would be my tips.
Amazing. And can you share with us how we can find you, how we can reach out to you?
Yes. So you can go on my Instagram. It is at underscore Shakira Jade. Or you can go listen to my podcast, which is the Success Club. It's all for entrepreneurs and business owners. And we obviously have an episode on there together. So yeah, hop on
Amazing.
over there.
Perfect. I'll make sure I share all the links in the show notes so people can get access to that really quickly. But is there anything final you want to share with us?
Um, no, I think that's everything. Actually, you know what? One little parting words of wisdom, I guess, is that as I've spoken about, I've had some challenges in my business, but every single thing you come across in business, there's a way through it. Everything is figure outable. You just have to figure out what is the solution and how to get there. But every problem has a solution. So don't ever think that it's hopeless or that you can't do it or it's impossible. There's no way of working through it. There is always a way. You just have to find it and keep
Yeah.
going.
Oh, love it. 100% agree with you. And I always think that too, think from the perspective of I'm not the first one that's had this problem. So if other people have solved this problem, I've got to go find out who they are, how they figured it out, and then figure out the problem and put that solution in place. 100% agree with you. Thank you so much for today. I really appreciate you sharing all your wisdom and all your whole journey along the way. Thank you so much for being a part of podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me.